As I think back on what I said in part three of this video series, that white has never meant the same thing. I want to be very clear. The narrative, the idea of white has never been a fixed ideology. And honestly, that took time for me to learn and to comprehend. Because the narrative that was passed down to me was to assume that white had always been the way it is now, like forever. But when you begin to ask the right questions, the answers will begin to challenge your perceived ideas of reality. For instance, if you look back into the 1600s, what you'll see is far more complex than what you were taught. Yeah, there were different types of people doing labor. There were European indentured servants, which was a small number. And there were Africans who were chained, coerced, and involuntarily made to leave their homes and their communities for that labor. While those two groups were laborers, they were not in the same position. They did not even to this day, have the same long term outcomes. And over time, those differences became far more defined. Laws began to draw very clear lines, and those lines start to shape who has access, who has rights, and who doesn't. And that's where things, the narrative that is, begin to shift more clearly. It shifted from a system that had a lot to do with class and labor to one that becomes increasingly organized around this new idea of white persons. Yet, even within this new idea, the narrative around white continued and continues to change. Groups that were not originally included eventually were, but at a price that we will talk about in later videos. And to be clear, they were not eventually included because anything biologically had changed, but instead and purely because the system, the narrative, adapted over time. That's the part I was never taught, that these categories weren't fixed. Instead, they were shaped and reshaped in ways that impacted people's lives every day very differently. Now, realizing that shift, that things didn't always look the way they do now, that narrative had changed, that was a turning point for me because it made me ask, if this wasn't always the system or the narrative, how did it become the system? This is part four.